Get ready for a masterclass in career evolution, leadership, and embracing change. Above all, you guys are going to learn how to increase your influence because we are going to hear directly from Brad. Hey, Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome, awesome. So, uh, I've said a lot about you. And looking at your book, Sphere of Influence, can you tell us why you wrote this book, Sphere of Influence, and how has it shaped your career?
Well, it really became clear when I retired from the university that I had all these stories of kind of good, bad, and ugly of how to build relationships. And I thought, I'm still mentoring one or two people, coaching, but that doesn't scale. And I'd like to help more people. So I really thought if I could put these ideas in a book, then I could share it much more widely. And I enjoy helping people grow in their careers when I was the executive in charge. And at the firm, Accenture, mentoring and coaching was a key part of our culture. And from day one, I was taught that my client or the person, my peer I'm working with, 25 years later might be my customer, might be my boss, might be a fellow CIO. And in fact, someone who started with me in 1984, 25 years later, became a CIO of a large organization the same year I became the CIO of the University of Texas at Austin. So it's just, we were taught from day one, treat people with respect and try to help each other.
Okay, I love that. I love helping people, especially when we talk about career. And I'm so happy to have you join us here to talk about this influence topic. Now, in your book, you mentioned internal and external sphere of influence. Can you please break difference and why are both critical?
So, when I started the organizing the book, my editor said, just inventory all your relationship stories. And I had 40 or 50 of them. And then we just sat down with a whiteboard and they naturally fell into groupings. Relationships with your boss, relationships with direct reports, all your staff, executive leaders. So those were people you interact with, if not on a daily basis, but a weekly basis. So that's your inner sphere of influence. And then we found customer stories, peers and influencer stories, and strategic vendor partner stories. And those are your external sphere of influence. You're not interacting with them daily or weekly, but especially your best customers, you're interacting with them often. And there were three principles when I stepped back from the manuscript that apply to all relationships. And one is understand their goals and aspirations. Take the time to understand what they're trying to achieve, whether it's your boss or your direct report. And I welcome that discussion. When I was the boss, if someone asked, what am I trying to achieve? It's a team sport. I'll take all the help I can get. The second principle is set and manage expectations. And to be honest, I was not good at that at the beginning of my career. I got much better at it later in my career. And it's so important and so simple, but often we skip over that and we just rush to the solution or rush to whatever we're rushing to. And third principle is genuinely care about their success. And when I got to the university, I met with this professor who was crusty electrical engineer, been there for 40 years. And I worked with him 15 years prior on a statewide network project, which was very successful. And I said, okay, give me some advice. He goes, get out of the office and tell people you give a damn. And that was the best advice because you can't hide behind your screen. You can't stay in your office and wait for people to come to you. You need to get out there. And frankly, it's more fun and more rewarding.
Oh, that's so good, Brad. And I like what you said about understanding their goals and aspiration. The way I've
Right.
heard this said in the past was that your boss is your customer. So if you
Mhm.
know what they want, and if you know how to manage their expectation, you'll be successful
Yes.
with them. Now, Brad, I want to hear, and I'm sure my listeners, they also want to know, how can we as working professionals, how can we increase our influence?
Well, you need to be strategic and intentional. So, with your boss, that's a natural relationship. And most likely, you're meeting with your boss for a one-on-one once a week. Um, I would always meet in his office. I would never, expect him to come to me. Um, Same thing with direct reports. I would go to their office. Now, why would I do that? So, one, I can walk across campus, run into all these students, faculty, um, my peers, just get the energy of the campus. But two, their staff see me coming to them and ask, every week, like clockwork. And it's showing the flag that I care about them, their boss, and their teams. And then same thing with peers and influencers. I would always go to their office and meet with them. And this can be virtual too. You can do this hybrid as well. So it's just being intentional, um, knowing, how often you're going to meet, put that on your calendar. So someone said, I'm too busy to do that. Well, you're going to be busier if you don't get out there and talk to people.
Okay.
And so be strategic and intentional would be the main message.
Now I know you said once a week. Is that like the recommendation? Because I'm also curious if once a week is too frequent. What's your thought on that?
Well, I I would do once a week for 30 minutes. So it doesn't have to be a long thing, but you know, with your boss, you want to make sure you have the two-way lines of communication open. And if you have um situation where you have 330 people, um, 70,000 customers, things can go wrong at any time. And so being able to have those touch points allows you to keep that, well, let me back up, allows you to build trust. And, one of my bosses said, I want good news fast and bad news faster. And same with direct reports, 30 minutes, once a week. It just sometimes people don't want to ask for help, but if you show up every week and you talk about some of the issues, it just comes naturally.
Okay. Now, when we think about influence, I think most people all often think that that influence should come from the people leader down to the direct report. But I also believe that everyone, every working professional should know how to influence or should be able to position themselves so that they can also influence upward.
That's
Now,
right.
I want to hear from you. What are some maybe tips for influencing upward so that it's not just coming from up down?
Well, I used a couple of phrases in the book. One is use your words. So if you have a problem or an issue, you need to use your words and be comfortable to. Some people are scared to do that. They're afraid. But when I was the boss, I welcomed that. Um, the other is people are not mind readers. So if I'm the boss, my staff can't read my mind if I don't tell them what I want. And set out the priorities for the year, and then every week we talk about how we're doing to get towards those priorities. Um, so It's just really important to have an ongoing dialogue.
Okay. So say someone is an introvert, uh, you know, they are not outgoing, right? Are
Right.
there some tips that you can share with them in terms of how they can tap into their sphere of influence effectively?
Sure. Always have an agenda. Never have a meeting without an agenda. And I would put an agenda together and send it a day before and ask, is there anything else you want to talk about? It's a very simple technique, but it makes you think about what are the important things you need to discuss. And I would always put the most important things, first on the agenda and um, follow up with any action items so the boss or your direct report knows, what's to be expected. But I had one manager who showed up without an agenda.
Mm.
And I thought, well, that's odd. Next week, I'd like you to bring an agenda. So we got to the next week and he doesn't have an agenda. And he turns to his staff person and goes, I thought I told you to write an agenda. And it's like, okay, I'm going to give you one more reprieve. Next week, you're the manager, you bring the agenda. And then after that meeting, I pulled him aside and said, you should not berate your employee in front of others. And if you asked him to do something and you didn't follow up on it, that's your responsibility.
On it. Yeah.
So he never showed up again without an agenda.
Oh, that's it. That's a very important lesson. Now, Brad, you transitioned from corporate Accenture, Caterpillar to universities and higher education learning. How does
Mhm.
what are some challenges that you faced while making this transition?
Well, higher ed is an environment where it's consensus decision making. It's not like private sector where if I'm the chief information officer, I tell everyone, everybody use Dell computers. There's no discussion. That's what you're going to do.
Right.
At the university, if I said that, people would run for the hills. 60% of our computers at the university are Apple. And I can't dictate to a professor what
What they
machine he buys. But you still need standards. You need to be able to make things run. So my first year, I helped the university create an IT strategy. And we talked to 300 people on campus, all the deans, all the vice presidents, faculty, staff, undergraduate students, graduate students. And there was frustration because people didn't know how decisions were being made for IT. And we're spending tens of millions a year, but no one knew, what the plan was. There was no plan. So the number one priority for the strategy was to establish IT governance. And there's actually a textbook out of Harvard Business Review that is called IT governance, and it's by Wheel and Ross. And they say you need operational decision making, technical decision making, and strategic. Well,
Mm.
we had none of those.
Oh,
And so I pulled together groups of faculty and students to make decisions about technology in the classroom. And when it came to selecting a new learning management system, faculty and students evaluated all the products and selected the solution, which was much more modern, much more secure. And when I took it to the strategic decision making group, president, provost, three deans, CFO, the president asked, well, what do the faculty and students think? And I said, well, sir, they unanimously recommended we move to this new learning management system. He said, well, let's do it. Technical decision making, we needed to pick encryption software. So I had the technical group pick the software. So it's not, yeah, some crazy idea from central IT. I wanted the best minds on campus to help with the decision making. And then the administrative side of the house, HR, payroll, finance, etc., that group would meet and we created a master plan to replace these old legacy systems with new modern cloud-based systems. So out of the strategy also came the need to replace the phone system. We had a copper-based phone system. The vendor was turning it off. We had 21,000 phones, but
Um,
the technical group picked the solution, and over 2 years, we implemented it. The learning management system implementation took 2 years. We're so big that some courses are only taught once every other year. Um, but it was really, uh, I think the key to success is getting the best thinking on campus to help make those big decisions that really affect everybody.
no, that's so good. So having the right team, the best mind, will help in decision making. So, Brad, let's take a moment and reflect. I want you to go back to maybe your career, looking at the different roles you've held, the different companies that you've worked with. Is there any particular one that you say maybe you had a defining moment during your career, that maybe a turnaround, maybe something happened that accelerated your career, maybe something happened that you really learned from? I want to hear, and I also want you to tell us why that moment was such a powerful one to you.
Well, one thing I did to prepare for the book is I looked at 22 years of annual reviews and I looked at things I was asked to do every year. And it was really amazing how well my partners helped me to become a partner. And a lot of the keys or the primary key is always give me a stretch role to help me grow into the next level. So they gave me a manager role when I was not a manager. They gave me an executive role when I was a senior manager. They gave me a partner role when I was a senior executive. And you're able to practice and work at that level without the pressure of being at that level. And so I think the field promotions along the way really were helpful. And then I had one client, a very large Research One university, similar size to the University of Texas at Austin. So 50,000 students, 4,000 faculty, 20,000 staff. And they had a replacement transformation program for payroll and accounting. Well, the payroll system, they had a bad experience. And when they went live, they had to pay people cash out of the back of a armored truck. Not good.
Okay.
And they were in the news. The board was upset. And so they asked me to serve as an Accenture partner in the client role. They wanted me to be the client.
Mm.
And then we brought in Accenture, and I was interacting with an Accenture partner, which was really wonderful because I had full visibility into who was available at Accenture. So I'd say, I would like Christy here on Monday. And they'd say, oh, that's too hard. Yeah. I was like, I want Christy here on Monday. And and to your point of what made it special was the executive leadership. Those leaders, having been through a bad experience, were 110% supportive going forward. And we met our first milestone in April. The team started to feel like, okay, we're going to be successful. And the leaders set the expectation that if we're not ready to go live, we're not going to go live. We're going to wait till we're ready because they had that bad experience. So we get to October. we have 30 criteria to go live or not for payroll. And most of them are green, some no reds, no red stopping us, but about seven yellow.
Um,
And the seven together, I felt created too much risk.
yeah.
So I called the chief financial officer. I remember it well. It was 10 o'clock at night prior to our starting to go live.
Mhm.
And I said, I really think we need to wait. And we had a fallback date already. It was we were in October. It was going to be Thanksgiving. Well, no one wanted to work Thanksgiving. So I sat down with the payroll officer and we found a date just 3 weeks out. And that gave us time to take every one of those yellows and turn them green.
Yeah.
And when we went live, it was the most boring event ever.
Because it
And
was.
the provost and the CFO, we talked about that, and they said it was really a sign of maturity that they had the courage to delay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you get all the emotion and everything, and you make a mistake.
Oh. So, Brad, you explaining the traffic red, yellow, and green resonate clearly with me because in my job today, I also manage risk. And I think it takes courage to say, okay, let's audit, let's delay. For me,
Yes.
my drive is always I want to meet the schedule. I don't want to delay my.
Right.
But I think I learned a lot from you, from saying, okay, let's delay. Of course, you say you have a backup date, which of course
Mhm.
makes sense. But now, let's take it step, let's go a little bit deeper. When you were telling me about your defining career, you mentioned promotions, you mentioned stretched roles, and you mentioned
Mhm.
your leadership, how they were 100% supportive for you. What is it about you that made them call on you that, hey, Brad is the person that we should promote to the senior executive role? Is it your technical background? Is it your people skill? Can you double click on that for us?
Well, it's a combination of people skills, technical skills, and financial management. At the end of the day, you need to manage the business.
Yes.
And, just a desire to help your clients be successful. And because if your clients are successful, you will be successful. 80 to 90% of Accenture customers are repeat customers. Well, why is that? Because success breeds success. And I have a client who I might not have talked with for 5 years call out of the blue and say, "Hey, can you come help me with this project?" It's like, of course I can do that. So it's a desire, client service being so important, but you could not be promoted if you weren't mentoring your people, you weren't doing your evaluations on time. You had to teach others. We have a training center outside Chicago, and a month before I retired, I'm teaching project management to 200 people with other partners from all over the world. And it's such a joy, but you could not, you could make all your financial numbers, but you still had to
Yeah.
nurture your people. And then third, you had to have competence to help your client be successful.
That's so good. I like you mentioning success. So at this stage in your life, how do you define career success?
Current success is helping people grow in their careers. So I still mentor two or three people, but I'm really enjoying the podcasting, guesting on podcasts. Each host has a different angle, and I love your approach. I think it's wonderful. Really speaks to me. And I, a woman who used to work for me at the university is a consultant now. I hired,
Where
so she helped me create 1 hour workshop and a half day workshop based on the principles of the book. So someone growing in their career can actually practice. How do you uh, how do you ask someone for what their goals and aspirations are? How do you set and manage expectations? How do you genuinely show you care? Set and manage expectations. I had this boss who's a type A personality. Everything was urgent. Everything was urgent. And one day I'm trying to leave at the end of the day, have dinner with my wife. The phone rings. It's the boss. I need a white paper. A white paper.
A
And
wipe.
and she's, yelling it in the phone. And I literally said, "Whoa." I didn't say no because that would set her off. I said, "Whoa, when do you need this white paper?" Oh, let me check my calendar. I meet with a client in 2 weeks. Okay, I thought it was tomorrow.
Yeah.
How many pages do you want this white paper to be? Oh, 3 pages. I was thinking 10. Do you have an example of a white paper that I could use? Yes, David, I did one on XYZ Corp 10 years ago. Well, guess what? I went home. Before I learned to say whoa, I would have stayed up all night. Nope. I would have called my wife and canceled dinner, upsetting her and me. Then
Yeah.
I would have stayed up all night and delivered the next day a 10-page white paper that the boss would not be happy with.
Uh,
Lose, lose, lose. But
useless.
just by saying whoa gives you, especially with those type A personalities, gives them some mental space and time to really understand what is needed.
So thank you. And thanks for your kind words. I really enjoyed this conversation. Now we have come to our rapid fire question, and this is to get to know you more. So, Brad, are you a Windows guy or a Mac guy?
I was a Windows guy for 22 years with Accenture and a Mac guy at 8 years at the university.
Combination. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, I'm a night owl. But night owls, need to show up at the office on time. You don't talk to anybody, but just get there on time.
Favorite leadership quote?
Oh gosh. It's probably Stephen Covey. Take time to sharpen the saw. Take time to do your training. I had people say, "Oh, I'm too busy for training." No, you're not. We have 330 people here who can back you up. So go to training. Take a vacation.
Right, that's right. A book you would recommend for my listeners other than yours.
Oh, there's a book, a woman named Naomi Carton, Karten, and it's actually called Managing Expectations. And she's a psychologist who then worked in IT, in customer support. So she applied some principles from psychology to better serving her customers. And her number one principle is just say whoa. So that's where I learned to say whoa. I literally finished that book the day before
Um,
Type A boss called, and I was so scared and nervous, And when I said whoa, I had no idea what was going to happen.
you say,
And
"Whoa,
it
that's
and
good."
it just turned out, and I did that with my clients. Use your words. They can't read your mind. So, but yeah, just say, well, managing expectations. It's not War and Peace. It's just a very simple guide. And I actually tried to model my book in that same vein. Make it an easy, uh, you don't have to be born with the skill. You can practice this.
No, that's good. As a technologist, so was that maybe biggest tech trend that you are excited about?
Oh, it's got to be artificial intelligence,
Absolutely, absolutely.
especially in higher ed. I mean, I still am in touch with my friends at the university, and they are working on an AI tutoring capability that can individualize help to students. And, I just think that's fantastic. And they allow AI in the classroom. They have policies around it. They embraced it, not didn't run from it. So I think that's uh, that's the future, followed by quantum computing.
Oh wow. So as you mentioned that, I'm a little bit scared. I'm in my PhD program right now, and I'm thinking someday I'll be a college professor. So I'll see if they'll eliminate my job. Brad, where can my listeners get your book?
I'm going to send you a link that will take them to my website for one tab will be a free sample of the book.
Okay.
The second tab, how to buy the book, and third tab, how to schedule time on my calendar. So
Okay.
I'll send that to you, and it'll be very easy for them.
Awesome. I like that. And I will be sure to keep that in my show notes. We have come to the end of the show, Brad. Thank you very much for being an evangelist here today. I
Hmm,
appreciate this conversation. There's been a lot to learn, and I will encourage my listeners to connect with you. I saw you on LinkedIn. I'm going to connect with you
hmm,
myself so that we can
wonderful,
learn from you and be a part of your journey. Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you.